From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Tonight, Governor Babagana Zulum calls for more military support in Borno State as 43 rice farmers killed by Boko Haram insurgents are buried. United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees condemned attack on rice farmers, describes incident as the most violent direct attack against innocent civilians. Death toll from fresh bandit attack on Jamar local government area of Kaduna State rises to 8. And UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says England's new COVID-19 tier system has a sunset expiry date in February in a bid to prevent a Commons rebellion. We begin from Borno State in Nigeria's northeast, where the murder of at least 43 rice farmers by Boko Haram insurgents have been a cause of concern for the state government and residents of Zabarmari community as the slain farmers are laid to rest. Governor Babagana Zulum appealed to the federal government to recruit more youth in the Civilian Joint Task Force and hunters into the Nigerian military and civil defense to ensure adequate security for the state. The farmers were attacked on Saturday at Koshebe village in Mafa local government area, although the victims lived in the farming community of Zabamari.
A crowd of mourners gather as bodies of the 43 rice farmers murdered in cold blood by Boko Haram insurgents are brought in for interment. Governor Babagana Zulum joins residents of Zambamari village for the funeral. The residents are obviously still in shock as the farmers had only gone to neighboring Koshebe village in Mafa local government area to cultivate their crop.
They were even slaughtered while they were working in their farmlands. Our people are in very difficult conditions. They are in two extreme conditions. On one side, if they stay at home, it's very sad. Indeed, it's very sad.
The community suspects the death toll may be far more than the official figure released. One of the survivors narrates his ordeal in the hands of the killers, whom he says always come around to seek their help until the story changed on Saturday night.
When they started gathering our people, we thought it was for us to help them carry their loads as usual from the bush to town. But we were mistaken. They were calling people in one after the other. We thought it was for questioning since we didn't hear gunshots. By the time we realized they were slaughtering them, many of our people had been killed. A few of us escaped, only by the grace of God.
Governor Zulum is worried about the security situation here and wants government to step in.
So we are still appealing to the federal government to ensure recruitment of our boys, the recruitment of our indigents into the Nigerian army, which is very important. Again, we need our civilian JTF and hunters to be recruited into the Civil Defense Corps so that they can form part of the agro rangers with a view to protecting the population. Mr. President should listen to the call of our people.
Governor Zulum's appeal for the recruitment of more civilian JTF members may be timely, but the people want more military presence in the area to forestall a repeat of the gruesome murder of innocent souls.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has described the killing of the Borno rice farmers as insane. The president's statement reads, I condemn the killing of our hard-working farmers by terrorists in Borno State. The entire country is hurt by these senseless killings. My thoughts are with their families in this time of grief. May their souls rest in peace. He adds that government has given all the needed support to the armed forces to take all necessary steps to protect the country's population and its territory. For the Senate President Ahmed Lawan, the killing of the rice farmers is another act of barbarism against innocent Nigerians minding their own business. The Senate President said, "This incident is heart-rending and again demonstrates why we must all continue to support the security forces to thwart the criminals in their evil determination to impose a reign of terror on the northeast of Nigeria." The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, on this part said the incident has once again brought to the fore the need for more military action against the terrorists. For him, the incident has once again, or for him, he said, their lives should not go in vain. This should call for more action from our military. As a House, we are ever ready to give them all the necessary support, especially through budgetary allocation, to deal decisively with the insurgents. In the meantime, the Northern Governors Forum say it will not relent in its support to enable security agencies deal decisively with terrorists and other criminals. The chairman of the forum and the governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong, made the comments while reacting to the murder of the 43 rice farmers in Borno State. He described the incident as tragic and a great setback to the country's efforts to attain domestic sufficiency in rice production as well as food security. He said the forum had consistently worked with the federal government, security agencies, and local support groups to ensure the protection of farmers in order to enable them carry out their farming activities. For the main opposition, the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, the killing of the rice farmers is extremely wicked and devilish. The party said in a statement that it is worried over the incessant killing and maiming of innocent Nigerians by insurgents, bandits, and marauders who have continued to attack several communities. The PDP adds that the current government has been paying lip service to the fight against insurgency and appears helpless to tackling insecurity in the country. It further said that all the nation gets from the Buhari presidency is that Mr. President is shocked and Mr. President is saddened. Mr. President regrets, and such responses without any decisive policy direction or directive to definitively tackle the situation at hand. But the United Nations Resident Humanitarian Coordinator is suspecting that the death toll may be higher than 43 in Borno State. The UNHCR Resident Coordinator in Nigeria, Mr. Mohamed Kalon, said in a statement today that at least 110 civilians were ruthlessly killed and many others were wounded in the attack. And he wants government authorities to bring the perpetrators of the crime to justice. He condemned the attack on the farmers, describing the incident as the most violent direct attack against innocent civilians this year. The statement reads in part, the entire UN system and the humanitarian community working to provide life-saving and development assistance to the most vulnerable in Borno State is outraged by the incident. Such direct attacks against innocent civilians jeopardize the ability for the most vulnerable people to survive the adversity they are facing and which we are striving to alleviate. The statement adds that the UNHCR has also received reports that several women may have been kidnapped shortly after the gruesome killings. From Borno, we move to Kaduna State, where the death toll from an attack earlier today in Jama'ah local government area has risen to 8. State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arua, said the incident happened at Ungwan Bido village, where some of the local residents were killed and 4 injured, while 2 children are missing. 4 houses were also burnt down by the attackers. Today's attack follows a reported killing of 1 herder in Ungwan Pa village on Saturday by unknown persons. Meanwhile, the Kaduna State Governor, Nasir El-Rufai, has condemned the fresh attacks and loss of lives in Jama'ah local government and has already directed security agencies to investigate and arrest all persons involved in the criminal action. He condoles with the families of those killed and appealed to security agencies, traditional rulers, and community leaders to continue to work with the state government to sustain its community peace-building efforts. The former governor of Katsina State, Ibrahim Shehu, is calling for proper synergy among security agencies if the lingering insecurity in the country must be tackled. According to him, security agencies must not see themselves as rivals. Rather, they must also contribute their quota in rejigging the country's security architecture and redefine the approach to tackling emerging challenges.
It is the responsibility of both government and governed. So there must be synergy, and the security services must equally work together. They must not see themselves as rivals, fighting each other at the expense of security of our people. But the nation needs to not just only come together, but we need to pray. Equally, we need to work hard. And we need to reject our security architecture. We need to redefine our security approaches because things are not working the way we hope them to work. So therefore, the government is advised at all levels, at state and national level, in all over Nigeria, to rethink the security architecture and the strategy so that we can come out of this problem that we see across our country.
Staying with security matters, police authorities in Rivers State have arrested 3 suspects who allegedly detonated explosives at a Pentecostal church said to be owned by the father of the Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike. The suspects, numbering about 5, reportedly attacked the church on Saturday night. Channels Television gathered that the gunmen's escape plan was blocked after local security groups in the area noticed some strange movements and then swooped in. 2 of the suspects reportedly escaped while the remaining 3 are still in police custody. Moving on to other stories. 2 of the power distribution companies in the country, the Iko Electricity Distribution Company and Kaduna Electric, have disclosed that the national electricity grid has collapsed again, leading to power outage in parts of the country. Iko Electricity, in its message via its official Twitter handle, said to its customer that the outage being experienced is due to a system collapse on the national grid, and they are working with the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, to restore supply as soon as possible. A similar message was posted by the Kaduna Electric, where it announced its regret over the collapse of the national grid. It further explains that the loss of power supply in our franchise, Kaduna, Sokoto, Kebbi and Zamfara states, is as a result of the collapse of the national grid this morning. The grid, which has been managed by government-owned Transmission Company of Nigeria, has continued to suffer some system collapse over the years amid a lack of spinning reserve that is meant to forestall such occurrences. Local licensed miners in Zamfara state are asking the federal government to lift the ban on mining activities in the state, claiming that it will create jobs to the teeming unemployed and reduce insecurity in the state. The ban on mining was imposed by the government following reports linking violent attacks in the state to the activities of illegal miners.
Local mining has been outlawed in Zamfara state since 2019, following security reports linking several cases of banditry and security breach in the state to activities of illegal miners. Since then, local miners, including those with government licenses, have been lamenting hardship caused by the ban. James Uduji is a businessman who mines gold for a living in Zamfara state. He says he's unable to mine gold despite being licensed and paying the necessary fees.
I got my license from federal government, and I still renew my license when due. I pay what I'm supposed to pay every year, even without doing anything. In as much as the banning has affected us so much. In fact, it's part of the thing that led this project. Because you cannot test this plant without having about 60,000 metric tons of ore.
But some experts believe a ban is not the only solution to banditry. They believe that creating jobs and proper coordination of mining activities may be longer-lasting solutions to the menace.
When they lift the ban, they come in conjunction with the Ministry of Environment. We have that ministry in the state. They will now come up with the way that this is how we organize them. Call the people, arrest them, give them papers to fill, let them have accountability. How many of them, which local governments? We have this gold in various different local governments. Who is mining where? And what are getting, and what is the share?
As we are here, he explained that he will employ 2,000 people. If we have 10 of this kind, then we have 20,000. So it's a good thing for the state government. It will reduce the poverty, it will reduce unemployment, and crime even.
The government had promised to lift the ban on mining in the first quarter of 2020, but is yet to do this. However, the federal government has launched the Presidential Artisanal Gold Mining Development Initiative, which is intended to formalize and integrate artisanal gold mining into Nigeria's legal, economic and institutional framework. Although this initiative has helped buy up a lot of illegally mined gold in Zamfara, licensed miners like James Uduji are still suffering the ripple effects of the ban.
In part two, after the break, rights groups seek domestication of bill seeking to protect women and girls against violence across all states. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 live on Channels Television, Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Governor Babagana Zulum calls for more military support in Borno State as 43 rice farmers killed by Boko Haram insurgents are buried. United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees condemns attack on rice farmers, describes incident as the most violent direct attack against innocent civilians. Death toll from fresh bandits attack on Jamar local government area of Kaduna State rises to 8. And the European Union, the United Nations Spotlight Initiative and the Women for Equality and Sustainable Development have been speaking on the need for domestication of violence against women and girls' bill rights. The EU and the European Union, that's the EU of course, the United Nations Spotlight Initiative and the Women for Equality and Sustainable Development have been speaking on the need for domestication of the violence against women and girls by all states. They also want civil society organizations to lend their voices towards fast-tracking the domestication of gender equal opportunity bill by promoting leadership skills in organizations across the country. The UN Spotlight Initiative made the call at the capacity building workshop in Yola, the Adamawa state capital.
The Gender Equal Opportunity Bill seeks to eliminate all forms of discrimination against women and to guarantee equal opportunity, development and advancement for all Nigerian citizens, irrespective of gender. It also seeks to promote girls' access to education, freedom for women participation in economic activities, and the right to freedom from violence. This is the reason for this meeting in Yola, Adamawa State, organized by civil society organizations. They are here to drum support and create awareness on fast-tracking the Gender Equal Opportunity Bill in Adamawa State and across the country.
We're very excited to hear that as an organization that they've been able to go for the first advocacy visit with the Attorney General to find out why the VAP Act, the bill is not yet passed in the states, because that is really a very strong hindrance to most of us like us working towards addressing the issue of GBV, because in whatever cases we are fighting on GBV, you don't have a backup law to penalize a perpetrator. It doesn't go anywhere, so they can actually go scot-free at the end of the day.
A state lawmaker reveals that the House is on the verge of domesticating the Violence Against Women and Girls Act, while the Adamawa State Commissioner for Women Affairs explains the role of the ministry towards ending all forms of violence against women and girls.
The frontline actors are really in support of the VAP Act, because even Her Excellency is in support of the VAP Act. She's saying, let's domesticate it, let's adopt it in Adamawa State House Assembly. So we're working towards adopting the VAP Act in the Adamawa State House Assembly.
To further advocate
full involvement of women in socio-economic and political development of our society, the Ministry of Women Affairs and all partners will have to be part of this by reaching out positively.
Adamawa is one of the states where the domestication of Equal Gender Opportunity Bill is still pending. This bill, if passed, is expected to improve the participation of women in politics and give a voice to the girl child.
As the volatility in the price of crude oil continues to impact negatively on revenue, government continues to do a lot for agriculture as a means to diversify the economy and improve food security in the country. Tomato, a tropical fruit and vegetable, is grown in most parts of Nigeria. However, tomato farming comes with many challenges, and one of which is post-harvest wastage and profit loss for farmers. In this next report, our correspondent examines how the federal government is addressing these challenges using the Anchor Borrowers Scheme.
I don't feed without tomatoes because without tomatoes the food no go nice.
Without tomatoes, you cannot be able to cook anything.
My wife, she's using it to cook food and it's good for our body.
Tomatoes, a tropical fruit vegetable, is a distinctive ingredient commonly used in many local and international cuisines. Tomatoes are highly demanded in Nigeria. However, this kitchen staple comes with its challenges as farmers lose millions of naira to post-harvest surplus in its season.
When we are producing a lot of tomatoes and the market isn't good. So by that very time, we wish federal government or state government or stakeholders to come and build some scale industry here so that when the tomato is too in the market, then they will buy, process it into the sachet one so that they will be selling it a month or after.
Solutions to eliminate post-harvest loss includes investing in the greenhouse method of farming to grow quality seeds for more yields.
Currently, the varieties we are giving them can give them minimum of 40 to 50 tons per hectare, minimum. But the traditional varieties they are using, they get around 5 to 10 tons per hectare maximum. So you can see with this improved seedling, a lazy farmer can even get more than 4 times what he used to get on the same piece of land.
Some agriculturists say the central bank Anchor Borrower Scheme is helping to make tomato farming more viable.
The CBN intervened under the Anchor Borrower program and started last year for tomato, funding the farmers with other inputs. We provide them the tomato seedlings and we guarantee them uptake at harvest time. So the farmer is motivated. 1, he doesn't have to use his money. 2, he has good price and a ready off-taker.
Farmers explain their experiences with the Anchor Borrower Scheme.
Wannan tumatir da kike ganin sa yanzu dukkanin sa bai fice kwana 17 ba da dasa yanzu gashi yayi girman da fiye da inda na da yake mana.
At a time when the country is contending with dwindling revenue because of the impact of COVID-19, experts say more attention should be given to tomatoes processing, which would help prevent post-harvest waste and in turn generate revenue for the economy. From Kano Metropolis, Nanchin Vincent, Channels Television News.
When the news at 10 returns, the Rose of Sharon Glorious Ministry says there is a greater hope for Nigeria as the country prays for a new beginning. Join us again. Welcome back. There is hope that Nigeria will emerge strong despite the challenges it is facing as a nation. This was the message that reverberates through the 2020 annual National Crusade organized by the Rose of Sharon Glorious Ministry International in Lagos. The convener of the crusade, servant leader Folorunsho Alakija, led other ministers in a power-packed gathering that featured salvation, healing, deliverance, and breakthrough.
Eclectic expressions from men and women in an atmosphere of praise, with strict observance of the COVID-19 safety guidelines. That is typical of the three-day national crusade of the Rose of Sharon Glorious Ministry. And still in that atmosphere, servant leader Apostle Folorunsho Alakija leads the congregation in worship. This year's crusade is themed, "The Siege is Over." As she mounts the rostrum, the billionaire businesswoman turned minister of God explains how the theme is linked to current realities in the country.
Nigeria has been under siege for 60 years. And I said, oh, wait a minute. How does that add up? Oh, it must be that he's talking about the independence in 1960. That from that time on, we've been under a siege. 60 plus 60 makes 120. We're in 2020. Oh my God.
Her message for the night dwells on hope for Nigeria.
He didn't say how he was going to make it to be over. He just laid in my heart that things were going to get better. Things will get better for you and I. Things will get better for all of us in this nation. That the best is yet to come. That the worst is already over. That we have a new beginning. That is a new story for us. It's a new story in our land. That will be told by our children as well.
The message climaxed into prayers for breakthrough, deliverance, as well as the peace and progress of Nigeria.
That concerns you and I. It is over. I am the first partaker of the siege. That's over. I don't know about you. I'm the first partaker. In the name of Jesus.
In a separate interview, Apostle Alakija explains how God's benevolence is leading Nigeria into a new beginning.
I believe in my heart that this is a beginning to new things. A new beginning for our nation. You understand me? For our families, for us as individuals. He wants to do a new thing in our lives. He wants to make things better in our lives. I didn't know what he was talking about. You understand me? But that's how he said it. That, you know, that he's talking about Nigeria. He's not talking about COVID-19. So, you know, God knows what he's doing. And he will make things better for each and every one of us.
According to the convener, the essence of the crusade is to win souls for Christ. The Rose of Sharon Glorious Ministry International, which started as a small fellowship in 2004, has grown into an interdenominational ministry impacting the spiritual and physical well-being of people.
The Minister of Transportation, Mr. Rotimi Amechi, has been speaking on the approach of the Buhari administration in restructuring the country. He was speaking against the backdrop of the meeting of the South-South leaders and the federal government delegation in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. The minister was a guest on our political program, Sunday Politics.
It's critical and important to the president is how to reduce poverty. If you reduce poverty, you will reduce agitation. So people are hungry, you address hunger and poverty, and remove this money that these elites are stealing and put it in the hands of the poor. If you're able to create employment, you're able to create. Once you create employment, you create security. If you like, hire as many men as you want to hire that are policemen. You will do nothing. until you put food in the hands of people. When you don't create a legitimate economy, the people will create for themselves an illegitimate economy and be able to feed themselves. Because if you don't feed themselves, they will die. They will die. So if to you, what's important is restructuring. I don't see anything wrong with restructuring, but I'm saying that it's not the most critical problem that we have.
A popular chorus from a musician from way back echoed, "More money, more problems." Well, in Nigeria, it seems to be less money, more problems. Now, the declining economic growth is putting some financial pressure on state and local government authorities. Tonight, Babajide Ogusawo, our data consultant, will share insights on revenue sharing and allocation of responsibilities. It's great to have you, Babajide.
Good evening, Ayatollah.
All right, so I'm going to start with a double-barreled question. What is the current state of revenue sharing in Nigeria? And of course, is there any significant disadvantage to that?
So the key number is 419, and I'll share a bit more about what 419 really represents when it comes to Nigeria. But it depends on who you ask, is there an advantage or disadvantage. But let's remember that exactly on this day, 6 dozen years ago, I'm talking about on this day in 1947, the discussion was also about partitioning, distribution, but then it was about how should Palestinians and the Jewish nation be distributed. And that was the discussion happening at the United Nations, distribution. Tonight we are talking about how should revenue be distributed. Let's not forget...
Even with the call of restructuring, coming up here and there. But anyway, let's focus on...
Well, here's why this discussion is important. Let's take a look at how the net revenue to states has been in the last 5 years, because it allows us to really understand what exactly is going on. Is the revenue that states are getting increasing, or is it decreasing?
Dwindling.
And if we look at it, here's why there's a call for restructuring and there's a call for how should we share revenue that will be used for infrastructure development. We've seen that between January 20 and September 2016, we've seen there was over 968 billion from the federation account to states. In 2017, we saw that states had more money relative to 2016, 1.2 trillion naira. And in 2018, between January and September 2018, the 36 states in Nigeria had collected 1.8 trillion naira from the federation account.
That's massive.
That's massive. But here's what has happened in the last 2 years, even though there was no recession. In 2019, we saw that number decline. No longer 1.8 trillion naira within the first 9 months of 2018, it had declined to 1.7 trillion naira only available to the 36 states. And this year, based on the evidence from the National Bureau of Statistics, the states have collected even less money than they did in 2019. Don't forget the recession started only, that was official based on the recent figures. And so we've seen that this year, relative to last year, the states had less money available. Relative to the peak of 2018, less money available. And when less money is available, it simply means that states will prioritize paying civil servants and there will be less money available for development, for healthcare, for education. And
which has really has been let me not say problem, well, a challenge for so many years. I mean, the bulk of all that money and getting to pay salaries of civil servants, and it just keeps going back and forth year in, year out. And we're still talking about that even in 2020.
Yes, we're still talking about it in 2020. But this is the time that we need to let states understand that there's a need for more accountability and priority when it comes to public finance management. So it's no longer the days, we're no longer at that era where all the energy and focus is on the federal government. Let's not forget, the states get money from the federation account, not the federal government's budget. So the federal government's budget is on its own. All this money that we've shown tonight comes from the federation account, and the federal government of Nigeria's budget is not directly related to the federation account. In other words, whatever goes into the federation account has already statutorily been appropriated for the states. And so even though oil revenue is the major revenue that goes into the federation account, the federal government gets most of that. The states get a lot, and the local governments as well get a lot of money. So the focus now is, now that oil revenue is declining, the states have to be more accountable and more transparent with how they manage their finances.
Which brings us to the question of how the equitable is the sharing of formula, especially as it affects the geopolitical zones, the 6 geopolitical zones. You talk about in times past when we had perhaps just 3 regions or 4 regions. a particular region will definitely want to have the bulk of the share of the rate, but now we have 6 geopolitical zones. How is that?
6 geopolitical zones, but I started with that keyword 419. What do I mean by 419, Ayo? Now, when we speak about the Nigerian structure, 774 local governments, we forget to talk about that there are 419 local governments in northern Nigeria. Northern Nigeria classified as the northwest, the north central, and the northeast. So that's where we have majority. Over 50% of Nigeria's local government is in the north, number one. Number two, over 75% of Nigeria's land mass is in the north. So we've seen two things. Most of Nigeria's local government in the north. The fact is more than 75, you heard me right, percent of Nigeria's land mass is in the north. So the question is, how much revenue from the federation account goes to the north? And if we focus on that pie chart, that shows us the distribution of revenue, how much revenue has each region gotten this year. If we just focus on that distribution, here's what you'll notice. Yes, the South-South accounts for over 31% of that revenue on that pie chart. But the evidence and the summary from that information, based on the available evidence from the National Bureau of Statistics, shows that even though more than half of Nigeria's landmass is in the north, even though more than half of Nigeria's local governments located in the north, this year only 43% of money that has been distributed from the federation account has gone to those 19 states in the north. In other words, the north is very ripe, based on this information, for underdevelopment and for the challenges that we see, poverty. But again, the concerns from the South-South and from other regions is the oil is produced from the South-South, and because there's even less money available because of declining oil prices, the South-South are saying they need more funds. The Southeast are saying, based on the evidence available, the Southeastern region is the region that's seen the least amount of revenue this year, only 11%. The Southeast is saying they need more money.
And I'm sure the Southwest too also have their own.
Oh, the Southwest is are saying so, and the North are saying we have the largest land area, we have the highest population, yet we collect the least revenue. So this is the time for us to think of history. How has this been done in previously?
And then, of course, I want to quickly before we go, how much impact, of course, do you think the state of recession will in fact affect the budget of the respective states at this point in time?
From the evidence we've seen, even before the recession, we've seen a decline in revenue available to the states. The recession will have a huge impact because most of the states' budgets most of the states are funded from the federation accounts. A lot of states don't generate sufficient internal generated revenue to be able to finance the sort of standard of living and quality of life that Nigerians and the common man deserves. So the question is, what is the solution? And the solution is by looking at history. In 2002, if we look back at history, Nigeria was growing at double digits. In 2004, Nigeria was going at double digits. I remember, let's take a look at what
we definitely
a wise man once said about Nigeria's history.
So much time to go into all of that.
Nigeria's history really holds the future. If we don't carefully consider our history, if we take a look at it, if we don't carefully consider our history, just as Bolabo Gusonwa has said, then there shall be challenges not just in the present, but
challenges even in the future.
Challenges even in the future.
Data consultant Babajide Gusonwa, thank you so much for your thoughts on the news at 10.
Oh, and by the way, Bolabo Gusonwa was the Elvis Presley of Africa's journalism.
All right then. The Nasarawa State Infectious Diseases Diagnosis and Research Center can now conduct over 150 COVID-19 tests per day. Now, the state governor, Abdullahi Sule, says the state is also upgrading the center to one of excellence that can diagnose several infectious diseases. Our correspondent, Halima Agayam, tells us more.
An infectious disease diagnosis and research center built and furnished by the Nasarawa state government. When the idea to build the place was conceived, Lassa fever and Ebola were the diseases in mind. But now, coronavirus has taken precedence over them. COVID-19 sample collection and testing has since begun here. Governor Abdullahi Sule inspects the center and discloses plans to begin other tests.
We'll continue to equip the place, also to get us ready for Lassa testing. Because right now we are getting ready for a period where our people go out hunting rats and coming across Lassa diseases. So it is all in preparations for that. Also, we'll make sure that we are able to carry out Lassa testing. at the same time.
Senior health officials led by the Deputy Governor, Emmanuel Akabi, usher this team from the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation alongside other oil partners to the governor. Their mission is to officially hand over their donations of medical equipment.
On behalf of
They promise more support moving forward.
In due course, following from this, we'll bring in the experts who will do the necessary installation, put our training of staff in mind. We work with the Nigerian Center of Disease Control, the WHO organization, to ensure that we put this equipment in the best use. I'll also begin to look what area we can continue to collaborate until the objective of the state government of establishing this center as a center of excellence, I understand, not only for Nasarawa, but across the north, is fully achieved.
The Deputy Governor receives the items, which is the second after that of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, and is expected to increase COVID-19 testing capacity from 60 samples at a time to above 150. As the state receives this, it looks forward to more support from all and sundry to achieve its plan of making this place a comprehensive diagnosis and research center for various infectious diseases. Halima Gayam, Channels Television News.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says England's new COVID tier system has a sunset expiry date in February in a bid to prevent a Commons rebellion. The current lockdown ends on Wednesday, and many Tory members of Parliament are unhappy with the toughened tiers that will replace it. On Tuesday, MPs are expected to vote on the system. Here's more details on our COVID-19 global update.
England's current lockdown ends on Wednesday, December 2nd, but many Tory members of Parliament are unhappy with the toughened tiers that will replace it. In a letter to members of Parliament, Prime Minister Boris Johnson, however, says the rules could be eased in December. In the meantime, Foreign Minister Dominic Raab says Britain is at risk of suffering a third wave of coronavirus infections if it does not get the approach to lockdown restrictions right in the coming weeks.
Well, there's a risk of that if we don't get the balance right. But so far, the R level is coming down. That's really important. And that's why we're starting with the tiered approach, more restricted than some people would like than previously. But that allows us to ease up.
Dancing and banging drums in the streets, doctors and nurses protested in Madrid on Sunday against cuts, which they say leaves them struggling to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. Singing less flags and more nurses, about 4,000 protesters marched through the Spanish capital, the hardest hit region by coronavirus infections. Hundreds of Madrid residents joined the demonstrations, holding umbrellas to meet social distancing. However, Madrid's conservative regional government has denied cutting health services. Hong Kong reported 115 new coronavirus infections on Sunday, including 109 locally transmitted, the highest in nearly 4 months as authorities battle a renewed wave of COVID-19. Over 479 of the latest cases are linked to dance clubs. Hong Kong has closed bars, nightclubs and other entertainment venues for the third time this year as authorities warn that the resurgence is worsening rapidly. Finally, as the festive season approaches in Russia, children with disabilities meet with Father Frost, Russia's Santa Claus, and Snegurka in Kuzminki, the Moscow residence of Father Frost. This year, due to the threat of COVID-19, the traditional children's matinee was impossible to hold, so they met at a hippotherapy club, Flona, in the south of Moscow. It gave some of the children a chance to ride a horse, while others have been using horse therapy as a treatment method for some time.
Over the years, runners from East African nations have dominated major marathon races across the world, even at the Olympic level. With long-distance races fast growing in Nigeria, it appears athletes are struggling to compete with their Kenyan and Ethiopian counterparts in marathon. This report takes a look at ways Nigerian runners can bridge the gap.
If you look at the standard of marathon all over the world, I think Nigeria, we are being rated probably now number 9 in the world because of our organization.
Nigeria is becoming a hub for marathon races in Africa. Unfortunately, no Nigerian has emerged overall winner in these competitions. From the Lagos City Marathon, Onitsha and now Kaduna Half Marathon, these events have been dominated by East Africans.
With a cash prize of $10,000.
Despite the dominance of the Kenyans and Ethiopians, Nigerian athletes have a major attraction that draws them to these marathons, with the organizers providing separate prize money as incentives for the top 10 men and women from Nigeria, a sign that homegrown elites do not expect to beat the East Africans. Research has shown that the major reason for the performance of Kenyans and Ethiopian athletes is the high altitude environment in which they live.
And that we're trying to put together in Jos, at Gembu and Penshing. If we get these athletes to train properly in these two camps, we'll be able to compete with our eastern nations.
How can Nigerian runners stand out in these races and probably win one of these events? Mohammed Abbas is the national record holder. He sets the record for 2 hours, 16 points and 06 seconds at the full marathon in Lagos 30 years ago.
You see, the problem we have, some of our athletes, they are waiting for call. We have something, come and train. And even if you are there, you can't see them training well as you want them to perform.
Athletes from Plateau State have dominated marathons in Nigeria this year. Emmanuel Giang won the Lagos City Marathon and Kaduna Half Marathon.
My target is for me to have a medal for Nigeria in Olympic. Because this has started from now, I believe I can get a target. Because that is what I have been working for.
The joy of every athlete is to represent their country at the Olympics, with the Tokyo Games coming up in July next year. Hopefully, marathoners like Yang may fulfill his long desire to win and not just participate.
Nigeria's senior men's basketball team, the D Tigers, have ended the first phase of the FIBA Afro-Basket qualifiers undefeated. They defeated Mali 91-68 points in the final round of matches in Group D in Kigali, Rwanda. The second phase of qualifiers will hold in February the 19th through till the 21st of 2021. In football, Tottenham Hotspur have moved back to the top of the English Premier League following a cagey goalless draw at rivals Chelsea. The result sees Tottenham return to the summit ahead of Liverpool FC in goals difference, and Chelsea are 2 points further back in third. Earlier, Edison Cavani helped Manchester United beat Southampton 3-2 away. In the final game, the Gunners' Arsenal yet lost again, and this time falling to a 2-1 defeat to Wolverhampton Wanderers at the Emirates. And the main news again. Governor Babagana Zulum today called for more military support in Borno State as 43 rice farmers killed by Boko Haram insurgents were buried. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees described the incident as the most violent attack against innocent civilians. And that's it on the news at 10. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Have a good night.